First, I went to the United States. I was in New York and traveling around North America. And after that, I went to Europe as well. Mainly, I was in Germany. And I also went to Switzerland and Austria.
And it was all mainly for Kyudo?
Yes, mainly for Kyudo.
And you also wrote a university paper on Kyudo.
Yes, kind of internationalization of Kyudo. Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tokushikai Inside Look podcast. Today we're speaking with Mihasu Asai Sensei from Nagoya City in Aichi Prefecture, which has the largest number of Kyudo practitioners in Japan. Asai Sensei began his training under Asano Osamu Sensei, Kyoshi Nanadan, and remains a member of the Nakamura Kyudojo. In this wide-ranging conversation, Asai Sensei speaks of his Kyudo travels to the United States and Europe, conducting research on the cultural impact of Kyudo around the world. In addition to his tireless efforts as an interpreter at international seminars, Asai Sensei is also an inspiration to the next generation of young Kyudo leaders, having attained the rank of Renshi Rokudan 2 years ago at the tender age of 26. Asai Sensei speaks with experience yet humility and is a model of how budo arts like Kyudo help forge better human beings. I was inspired by this conversation and I hope you will too. So without further ado, I give you Mihasu Asai Sensei.
Let's just start with, how did you start Kyudo in general? Would you talk about the practice and what kept you in it?
Okay, so I started when I was 12 years old. There was Kyudo club, Kyudo activity club. At first, I was a kid and I just wanted to have fun shooting. Shooting at something is pretty fun to kids. It doesn't matter whether it's bow and arrows or guns or, shooting itself. It just is interesting to me. So I just started Kyudo for fun and shooting. And I practiced Kyudo in the school club for 6 years in junior high school and high school, 3 years and 3 years. So in total, I practiced Kyudo for 6 years in that school. And at the end of the school year, I participated in national championship of Kyudo in Japan. And I won the second prize in Japan. That was a big event to me. At the time, I was happy, but at the same time, I thought that I could do more. I wanted to be first, I wanted to be the best. And that's what has motivated me to practice Kyudo after that.
For those 6 years that you started while in school, how often did you practice?
Almost every day. After school, Monday to Friday after school, every day about 2 hours. Every Saturday as well. We don't have school, but we practiced in the morning from 8 to 12. Yes, so almost every day.
What did your parents think of so much practice?
Well, my parents supported me, especially in Japan. Before the university entrance exam, we really have to concentrate on studying. But I was allowed to practice Kyudo a couple months before the test. Usually people prepare for the university entrance test for at least a year, but I didn't really want to study. I just wanted to keep practicing Kyudo. I practiced Kyudo almost just before the university entrance exam, and my parents supported me.
Okay, so that motivated you to continue and be better. What happened after?
So after that, I went to university, and that university also had a Kyudo club. So I kept practicing Kyudo there. In high school, I practiced with only high school kids. When I went to university, I had some chances to practice Kyudo with a variety of people, not only university students, but also people who were over 30, 40, 50. So I met a variety of people who practice Kyudo in university. And I thought that it would be interesting to see people who practice Kyudo outside of Japan. When I was a third grade of university, I decided to go to the United States to see people practice Kyudo there. I went to New York.
How did you manage to do that whilst in university? Was it a course that you took? Was independent study project?
It was independent study. It was not a part of course. So for 1 year, I stopped university for 1 year. So during the year, I could do anything. I didn't have to attend the class, or I didn't have to attend any project in university. So I just stopped the university year and I traveled abroad. So I Googled Kyudo in foreign countries, or Kyudo. Well, I could only speak English other than Japanese. So maybe Kyudo in the United States, Kyudo in England, or then I found one Kyudo group in New York. And that's why I decided to go to New York.
How did you arrange for that trip? What did you have to plan?
First, I had to go to English language school to study English. Before traveling abroad, I didn't really speak English in Japan. So first, I had to be able to speak English. So I arranged the language school in New York. And I also sent an email to that Kyudo club in New York and asked them if they could allow me to practice together. And they warmly welcomed me to their group, so I could join them and I could start to stay in New York.
Okay, now you're in New York. What was that experience like? What were you doing there? How long did you stay?
Yes. So in daytime, I study English, and after that, and mainly in the evening, I joined the Kyudo club in New York. And it was a very surprising moment to me, because that Kyudo club, what they did was quite different from what I did in Japan. I mean, yeah, they say they were doing Kyudo, but that Kyudo was different from the Kyudo I practiced in Japan. Their group was called Toko Kyudo Club, and that Kyudo was heritated from Shibata Sensei, one of the Kyudo masters in Japan. And that style is quite different from what we do as All Japan Kyudo Federation. So that was very surprising to me. I didn't think about there was any other kind of Kyudo other than what I thought was Kyudo.
So there's going to be people who are listening to this who don't know Kyudo very well. Would you be able to describe the differences between All Japan Kyudo Federation Kyudo and Shibata Sensei's Kyudo?
Okay, yes. So what we do as a Kyudo is, basically, we use bow and arrows to shoot at the targets. And that is the same, but we really put emphasis on forms, how we shoot arrows. Not only shooting, but also how we walk, how we sit, how we stand. Any kind of movements are set in Kyudo. We have to follow the forms. And those forms are different in that Shibata Sensei style Kyudo. So it's difficult to describe, but the styles, the forms, movements are different. And also the core value was different. What matters to them, what matters to us, different. To us, yes, we practice Kyudo we use bow and arrows. So we are supposed to hit the target, and we have competitions. And through the competitions, we try to be better and better. And also through the practice, we want to better person. How do we say? Difficult, but yes, that kind of thing. But their Kyudo, let's say Shibata Kyudo, they are doing Kyudo for mainly for Zen, those religious thing. So that was different. When we practice Kyudo, we don't think about any religious thing. We just practice with bow and arrows. But they do Kyudo for Zen, one of the Buddhism. So that was very surprising to me.
I think when we met, you had also started practicing with a different group in New York City.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
So yes, there are two different groups in New York, and one group is Shibata style, and the other group is they follow All Japan Kyudo Federation. And so when I went to the Shibata Kyudo group, one of the practitioners there also went to the All Japan Kyudo Federation group. So he took me to the other group, and I could join both groups.
So how long were you in New York City, and what did you learn there?
It's about half a year, yes, and practicing with two groups. So my first impression was that people who practice Kyudo in the United States, whether they practice in Shibata style or normal style, I don't know if it's appropriate word, but Shibata style, normal style. But they people practice Kyudo in New York. They are eager to learn Kyudo. They are very enthusiastic because usually we practice Kyudo in Japan. So if we want to practice Kyudo, we go to the Kyudo place and we pay a couple of dollars for a day and we could practice for a day. But in New York, the land are very expensive. So they pay $20 or $30 for a 2 or 3 hours practice, and they can't shoot at the target actually because they rent a place, but they rent a very small place where you cannot shoot at the long distance target. So they practice only shooting forms or movements in a small place, but they pay $20 or $30. So they really try to learn Kyudo. They try to practice Kyudo. So I was very surprised with their motivation or their passion. Yes. And so I said there were 2 different groups, but both groups practice Kyudo really hard. So I don't want to say which is better. They both practice Kyudo in a very serious manner. But what they try to achieve, I thought what they tried to achieve a bit different.
What was your impression of the national seminar, the American Kyudo Renmei National Seminar?
Yes, I attended 1 or 2 times at the National Kyudo Seminar, and I thought it was very great. That was very nice event. They invited some Kyudo teachers from Japan. So people in America had really nice opportunities to learn Kyudo from nice senseis. So it was very nice. And also at that time, I met teachers, sensei in America, Kyudo teachers. They were very nice. I didn't expect that kind of great sensei in America. They really knew Kyudo. They practiced Kyudo for a long time. And I was really happy to see those people, those sensei in America. Yes.
Would you be able to talk about 1 or 2 of them?
So one of the sensei I met was Aaron Blackwell sensei, who is, I think, now is the top ranked Kyudo sensei in America. I remember when I first met him, I was a bit nervous and I was shooting in front of him. And what he said to me the first time was that my tabi, the socks for Kyudo, was a bit too big. And that was very impressive comment to me. People usually care about shooting form, shooting styles, but Blackwell sensei noticed my socks were too big. So he really knows Kyudo. He not only shooting, but also the clothes or those small, tiny things. He wouldn't miss those tiny things. That was very impressive.
Yeah, that's very cool. Do you have another sensei you can talk about? Or
Yes. So his name is Dan Simonsky sensei. Dan Simonsky. Actually, he's not in a national Kyudo seminar. He's in a Shibata Kyudo style, different group. But I think he's the now leader of the Shibata Kyudo group in America. And he was also a good shooter, Dan Simonsky sensei. And when I talked to him, he talked to me about that Shibata group. So he tried to keep the Shibata group better, but his sensei, Dan Simonsky's sensei, had already died decades ago. So he had pressure. He had to do it by himself. He had to manage the group by himself. So there was no other sensei. In that difficult situation, he tried his best. And that group, I heard that group was getting bigger. People who practice in Shibata group, they try to achieve a kind of peaceful mind, peaceful statement It's difficult to explain, but through the practice in a Shibata group, people try to achieve a peaceful statement. So that was impressive.
When you think back of your time in the United States, what are one or two fond memories that you have or things that you will look back on and smile at?
I had that kind of experiences many times, but yes, one time after seminar, I had one picture of people talking about tenouchi, how to hold bows with beer bottles. And that was fun. Yes, holding beer bottles, we talked like, oh, we should hold bows like this or that. That was fun. Yes.
That's great. So your time in the States eventually came to an end. What happened after that?
After that, yes. So I came back to Japan, and I, as I talked to you, there were different groups of Kyudo in the United States. So I thought that I should see more groups. I should find more different kinds of Kyudo groups. So I decided to write a thesis about those different Kyudo groups outside of Japan. I knew that outside of Japan, Germany has the largest population of Kyudo practitioners. So I thought that if I went to Germany, I'd see many Kyudo people there, and there might be another different Kyudo group. So I decided to go to Germany.
How were you able to propose to do this for your university? Was there a professor that you had to approach?
Well, my major was anthropology, studying human culture. Yes. So my professor allowed me to study, those culture. Kyudo is a Japanese culture, and Kyudo was transmitted to the foreign countries. And I saw the changes of the culture, Kyudo. And when I talked about it to the professor, he got interested in my stories. So yes, I was allowed to study about Kyudo in German.
Okay, how did you arrange for that trip?
After traveling the United States, when I got back to Japan, I joined some international Kyudo seminar in Japan as an interpreter. So I met many Kyudo people from all over the world. And at that time, I met one Kyudo sensei from Germany. So I sent an email to him and asked him to introduce some Kyudo places in Germany. And he really agreed to my idea. Actually, first couple of days in Germany, he let me stay at his house. And I stayed at his house and traveled around Germany visiting Kyudo places with him.
Okay, same as how you described your time in the US. Maybe you could do the same. How did you spend your time in Germany?
Yes, so first I followed that Kyudo sensei in Germany. His name is Felix Hoff Sensei, who is also the top ranked sensei I think in Europe. So first I went to the Kyudo place in Hamburg. I was very astonished there because that was just real Japanese Kyudo place. When I was in the United States, I didn't find any Kyudo place there. People do not have official Kyudo place. People just rent a place for Kyudo in America. But in Germany, they had their own Kyudo place, Kyudo building. That was very astonishing to me. They told me about the story. They built by themselves the building. And it was not only for Kyudo, but also for Kendo as well, Kendo Iaido. So it's kind of budo place in Germany, and they pay some fees, monthly fees or something, and they can practice all the time. It was very Japanese place in Germany. That was very impressive. And I practiced with them, and they had also a tea room in the building, the room where you can enjoy green tea. So, and I remember the moment when we had green tea during the practice. They prepared green tea, but they said, literally, they said senpai first. So, they said the word senpai. I think people who practice budo are familiar to the word senpai, but in that tea room, so senpai first, and they enjoyed drinking tea and talking. And that was very Japanese experience in Germany. Yes. And I visited some Kyudo places other than that place. So the first place was the only building I visited in Germany. Other places were like gyms, sport gyms. They rent for Kyudo. So Germany, Kyudo sensei, who started compared to the Shibata style, let's say Inagaki style, their main focus is hitting the target. Because, shooting bow and arrows that idea comes from samurai. Samurai used bow and arrows to fight against each other. If you use bow and arrows, you have to be able to hit all the time, otherwise you would die. So Inagaki style is more about physical things. They have to hit the target all the time. And even some people didn't wear socks. In Kyudo, we have to wear socks, tabi, in a Kyudo place, because you don't want to make the room dirty with your barefoot. You want to keep it clean. But in Nagaki style, they are samurai, so they don't care about floor or room. They just they have to kill opponents, and that was also impressive to me. Yes. So I learned some samurai style Kyudo in Germany.
So there's another difference between your trip to US and trip to Germany now. Now there's pressure for you to do research and write something and actually have a paper. How did you approach that work?
Yes. So one group in New York, they practice Kyudo for religious ritual purposes. And another group in Germany, they practice Kyudo to be a strong samurai, maybe. And so first I thought about only the differences between those groups. But when I continued to do some research on those groups, I finally reached the conclusion that they must have something in common. Our normal Kyudo group, and those Kyudo group in America and Kyudo group in Germany, we must have something in common. And I thought that was the most important thing to me, which is that they practice Kyudo to become a better person. In practicing Kyudo, you also train your body, of course, but not only body, but also you train your mind. The idea was the same. We practice Kyudo to train our body and mind. And maybe the Shibata style, they focus more on the mind part. And the Nagaki style, they focused more on their physical body part. But we all train body and mind through Kyudo. That was the same. And that was the conclusion. And also, what I have been doing as Kyudo is actually not so traditional, actually. That was another finding, because Kyudo, of course, in ancient time, we used bow and arrows to hunt animals. And after that, we used bow and arrows to fight against each other in war. It was a samurai period. And after that, we had those new inventions such as guns. And so we didn't have to use bow and arrows as a weapon. After the World War II, we are not allowed to practice any kind of budo, because the American people at the time thought budo were dangerous things. And they didn't want us to practice those dangerous skills or dangerous movements. But after World War II, I think 10 or 20 years later, Japanese government tried to get the budo back. So they turned budo into part of the PE classes. So people can learn budo in schools, high schools or junior high. So budo used to be our arts of killing people, but it changed to ways to train children or people. And what I have been doing, the style was established, I think, 60 years ago, 50 or 60 years ago. It's not so old. It's pretty new style, actually. And so at first, what American people did or what Germany people did was strange to me. But actually, what they did was older than what I do. What they did was more traditional in a way. What they did was more traditional than what I've been doing. So I was a bit confused with the fact. But as I said, we all do Kyudo to train our body and mind. And that was the most important part. And now I am a high school teacher and I teach Kyudo in a school club. But that idea to train our body and mind through Kyudo is always in the top priority to me. Yes.
Wow, that takes some strength in you to be able to acknowledge that coming from Japan, this is a Japanese martial art, and yet these foreigners are doing it more traditional than
Yes,
you are.
yes.
You had to admit that.
Yes, you're right.
Did you look at how the local cultures influenced how they practice Kyudo or what they're doing?
Yes, in America, I interviewed with some Shibata Kyudo people, and their stories were pretty interesting to me because, people in the United States usually they believe in Jesus Christ, but people talked to me that they said that when they were kids, they believed in Jesus Christ, but they thought that the Jesus didn't help them. To them, Jesus was not so helpful. So they tried to find some other ways to be a peaceful mind. And at that time, they found this Kyudo or Zen, the concept of Zen. And they thought that Zen would help them. And that's, I think, very cultural thing because we Japanese do not, well, we believe in Buddhism, but not in a strong way. So we don't really care about religious things. But American people, I don't say everyone, but there are quite a few American people who put an emphasis on religious things, and they ended up practicing Kyudo as a way to save them, to save their lives. That was interesting.
And in Germany?
In Germany, yes. So what I thought was, German people were very rational people, rational. They follow the rules. It was interesting story. Felix Hofsensei told me that people in German were taught to be logical or reasonable because in history they once followed the Adolf Hitler, and they made a big mistake. Now, first they have to be critical. They said they want to follow clear scientific things. They don't want to follow some mysterious ideas. So I think that's part of the reason why they liked this Inagaki style, because it's very clear. You have to hit, hitting is good. And if you miss, it's not good. It's very clear. And if you miss the target, you have something wrong with your form's style. It's very clear. And that kind of clearness, maybe German people liked that kind of idea.
Did you have a chance to interview people from other countries?
Well, when I was in Japan, when I was doing that interpreter job, I met some people from, it was Taiwanese people, and they were very, I think, close to Japanese people, and the Taiwan is very close to Japan, so maybe what they do as Kyudo was not so different from what we do in Japan, because Taiwan is very close. So I didn't feel any big difference between them and us.
I think it's very interesting taking that anthropological view of Kyudo internationally. I'm interested in actually for your paper, usually you have to structure in like, I have a question and then I have a methodology of how I research that question and then I come to conclusions. So you talked about your conclusions. I was just interested in what was the key question of your thesis that you want to answer? And then how did you describe your methodology?
So the key question was like the thesis start with a sentence, I want to be the best Kyudo practitioner in the world. So that's the starting sentence. And to be the best in the world, I have to be able to teach Kyudo to the people all over the world. And so the key question was, what is the most important thing in teaching Kyudo all over the world, outside of Japan? So that was the key question. What was the most important thing? And then the answer is that to train body and mind. And that's it. And small, tiny movements or forms could be different, but the train body and mind was important. And so to get the answer to the question, I had to learn about people, Kyudo people outside of Japan, why they practice Kyudo, what motivates them to practice Kyudo, why they started to get interested in Kyudo. So I thought learning those things would enable me to get the answer.
Okay, so now you have a better idea of what other people need and what other people can gain from Kyudo. What have you personally gained from doing Kyudo and being part of the community, part of the organization, and just the practice itself?
Yes. First, we have to respect others, not only people, but also things like equipments or places. So that idea, respect. We have to respect, of course, sensei. You have to, sensei, and without sensei, you cannot be better. So you have to respect sensei or senpai. Sensei, senpai would teach you. And of course, and your friends, together. I mean, you can practice Kyudo alone, but friends, it's not fun. You practice Kyudo and sometimes you have good moments, bad moments, but you get over those things with friends. And also you have kohai. Teaching kohai, you will learn many things. When you practice, you also learn, but when you teach, you also learn things. So then you have to respect those people around you. And also you have to respect equipment. You cannot practice without equipment, or place is also important. And another thing is Kyudo teaches me to be humble all the time. Kyudo is about perfection. If you want to hit a target all the time, you have to keep your form. You have to make your form in the same way all the time. So if your form is different or wrong, you'll miss the target. And if you have 1 centimeter wrong, then you miss the target. So, and in order to achieve the 100% accuracy, you have to be perfect, but you cannot be perfect. We are human beings. So through Kyudo, we try to be perfect. You try to achieve that perfection, but you never achieve it. You always have something bad, some problems with your shooting. So sometimes, I hit like 20 times in a row, and sometimes I feel I'm perfect or I'm good. I mastered Kyudo, but another day I can't do that again. So Kyudo teaches me to be humble. Human beings cannot be perfect. We always have some room to be better. Yes, I think those respect and humbleness are the key words.
You said that national tournament that you got second place in was something that motivated you to try to achieve more. And you're relatively young. How old are you now?
I'm now 28.
28. Wow.
Yes.
So tournaments and rank gradings, what have you achieved so far?
So after the tournaments, I haven't won the first prize in any national tournament. So that's the thing I have to achieve. I want to achieve in the near future. But the ranking, maybe I can be proud of myself. So I have Renshi 6th dan, and I got 2 years ago something. So when I got 6th dan, I was 26 years old. And I heard that at that time that was the youngest person who got the 6th dan in Japan. And yes, at that time I was proud of myself. But now I'm not so doing well. My accuracy is getting low. So of course, this Corona lockdown, I haven't been able to practice that much. But again, I now I have to be humble now. Yes.
That initial tournament, that was a high school tournament, or?
High school tournament,
Yeah.
yes.
So now when you participate in tournaments, you're with people that have been practicing for 20 years more than you, 30 years more than you.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, more or less, but yes, people who practice Kyudo, not in schools. So I compete with those people now.
Okay. We talked about COVID. It's bad right now for everyone, but when it comes back, what are some of your plans or hopes to do with Kyudo after hopefully a lot of this dies down in Japan and globally?
Yes. So now actually, competitions, we cannot hold big events, competitions or seminars. So that's pretty disappointing. But after these Corona things, I want to join those seminars or tournaments, the examinations for ranking. Now we can't do that. So I'm looking forward to being able to join those big events.
Great. To end this, do you have anything you might want to say to a lot of international people that will be listening to this? Some of them might know some Kyudo, some people might not know anything about Kyudo. What kind of message would you like to share?
So, yes, people who are listening to this, I think, interested in budo in some ways. As a Japanese, I'm happy about this situation. I mean, people outside of Japan interested in budo. So I want to see those people, and I want to see those people in Japan or outside of Japan and talk with them about budo. And if they practice Kyudo, I want to practice with them. I want to practice with them. That was one of the things I really like. Practice Kyudo with foreign people and talk about Kyudo. But we can't do that now, again, because of this pandemic. So we have to wait for that. But hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing those people in international seminar or international events in Japan or outside of Japan. I want to visit America again, America Kyudo seminar. That was very impressive to me. So yes, and maybe in, 20 or 30 years later, I want to go to the America seminar as a sensei, maybe, hopefully in the future, and teach Kyudo to people practice it in America or Europe. So maybe in the future, yes.
I have no doubt that will happen, that you will be traveling the world, spreading Kyudo, spreading the love for Kyudo, and showing people how important it is to work on your mind and body. So thank you so much for this. You're quite inspirational to a lot of people.
Thank you too. Thank you. It was very good opportunity to talk about these kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Have a good night.
You too. You too.
Bye.
Hey guys, just one more thing before you head out. Stay up to date on latest news and announcements by subscribing to our newsletter at subscribe.tokushikai.ca or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at tokushikai.canada. We're always looking for ways to improve, so please drop us a line on ideas and guests for the show. The Inside Look podcast is a production of Tokushikai Canada, a member of the Canadian Kendo Federation and affiliated with the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center in Toronto and the original Tokushikai Yado Club in Tokyo.